Some of Garrett's new metal detectors come standard with a double D search coil. For those that are used to pinpointing with a concentric search coil, I'm going to bury some targets here and just do a little demonstration on how to pinpoint with the double D. I've got 3 silver quarters, just the same size object in my hand there, and 3 different colored plastic chips that I'm going to use as markers. And I'm going to bury them over here. I've already dug out some holes here. So I've got one here that's just about 2 inches deep. It's real shallow. I'm just going to put the quarter down in there level and then bury that up. And over here I've got one that's about 5 inches deep. So I'm going to put another quarter down in there level and bury that up. And we're going to mark each one with one of these little chips to show where we've buried that. So there's a blue one, and let's get that level there. There's a green one right on top of that. And in this third hole over here, we've dug that out to about 9 inches deep. I'm going to put another quarter down in there, nice and level. And I've got another chip. I'm going to bury that up. Try to make that nice and flat. And then put my little colored chip on top. So we've got a 9-inch, a 5-inch, and a 2-inch depth with the same size, coin size target. And we're going to go demonstrate this 8.5-11 double D. Where the 2 coils come together, right down this center line is the narrow hot area. And this is actually the hottest part, just forward of the coil. But we'll pinpoint at different depths so you can see a couple of different techniques and then how the pinpointing would possibly slightly differ on targets at different depths. Okay, the first pinpointing technique I'm going to show is just the most basic one, which is using the pinpoint button on the detector. And I'm going to use this blue chip here where we have a target buried at 5 inches. Again, that's a coin-sized target at just an average depth of 5 inches. And I'm going to go over it back and forth, side to side, using the pinpoint button until I get my strongest signal, both visually and audibly. And we'll come in on the control box in a minute and show that. But first, let's just watch the coil. Target's detected. I move off to the side of where I think it is. I press the pinpoint button and go back and forth. Get my strongest signal and then go forward and back. And there I located my strongest signal by going east, west, north, and south. Basically like X marks the spot. So we'll do another take here where we come in and we look a little bit closer on the control panel, and you can see what we're seeing as far as the activity meter across the top bar and then listening to the sound. So again, we've got a target. Step to the side, I press my pinpoint button. Strong signal this way and then go forward and back. On this 5-inch target, just in front of the center line of the coil, where that blue chip is, that's where I'm getting my strongest reading, back and forth and side to side. Another pinpointing method with this double D coil is pinpointing off either the tip or the tail of this double D. So I'm going to go over the same target again. This is our 5-inch quarter. Got a good target. Got my strongest audio and then push forward. Right there where my audio dived off, that 5-inch deep target is right off the tail end of the coil, dead center there. Now let's come back and let's look at the display and watch the meter, and you'll see the strongest bars, and where they fall off, that's where you're going to do your digging. So we'll get over it, and I'll push forward and go off the tail. Solid meters, pushing forward. And once they've fallen off, I'm right over that target. It's just under the coil, possibly just inside or just outside, but it's right near the back end of that coil at the very center. That's pinpointing off the tail. I can do the same thing and come back and go off the front of it. Strong signal. Pull back toward me. And where it falls off, I've got the chip right there at the front of the coil near the center. So listening to the audio fall off or watching the meter on the LCD where it falls off, either off the tip or the tail of the coil, will help you dig a real tight recovery hole to get your target. Now I've moved forward to our 2-inch deep quarter just to show you what happens on another target that's buried shallower. I'll do either the tip or the tail technique on pinpointing with this one. Found my target. I'll go to hit pinpoint, get my strong signal, and I'll push forward to pinpoint off the tail. You'll notice this time, by the time the audio is really fallen off and by the time I've seen my meter fall off, it may be just outside the back of that coil. I'll probably see the same thing if I pinpoint off the tip up there. Got a strong signal, I'll pull back. And by the time my meter is really taking a dive and the audio is dropped off, it may be just under the top of the coil or possibly just outside, depending on the size of what the target is. Again, this is a quarter-size target. I've moved back to the 9-inch target here, and I'm going to go over this with this being in pro mode, so you're going to hear the proportional sound, a softer sound indicating that it's deeper. So I won't talk as I'm going over it, but I'll find it, pinpoint it, and then push forward so that it should be toward the tail of the target. Now where my audio fell off, I'm a little bit inside the coil. That's because of the depth. I've moved back to our 5-inch target here, and I'm going to show one more pinpointing technique with the double D. This is what some people call the wiggle, the double D wiggle. I put this in standard mode where you're going to hear the distinctive bell tone sound, the high sound. It's just clear for demonstration purposes. This works equally well in pro mode, but I'm just, again, doing this for demonstration purposes. I'm going to go over this without using the pinpoint button, find the target, and then go back to the side and begin wiggling and moving toward it. Find it laterally, and then come back and find it the other direction by spinning around 90 degrees. So now that I've said all that, let me just show you. So by coming at it from two different directions with a very tight wiggle back and forth, I moved toward where I thought the target was, got the most consistent repeatable beat or sound going over it, then moved around 90 degrees and came at it the other direction, kind of like the X marks the spot method, but getting that very, very repeatable sound back and forth either direction to narrow it down so that you hear this when you're over it. If I switch to pro mode, it'll sound like this. And again, this is without using the pinpoint button, just wiggling the DD coil back and forth real tight in a small area over where you suspect the target is. That's again this knife edge effect you've got of that center line where the two coils come together. That gives you the hot area, which which allows you to get right on those targets and wiggle like that and pinpoint with it.